All right. Oh, you hurt yourself.
I cut myself under the stove yesterday, and it sliced my finger open.
Oh, goodness.
It's actually
a long slice.
It's actually across 2 fingers. You just can't see it.
What were you making?
So David was making homemade chicken nuggets, for lack of a better word.
Homemade chicken nuggets?
Yeah, but he made them in like a Chinese sauce.
Homemade chicken Chinese nuggets?
It was kind of like General Tso's chicken.
Okay, General Tso's chicken nuggets.
Yes.
Fun.
But anyway, so I was making the sauce for it. The silicone spatula fell between the fridge and the stove. It being silicone, it was being very resistant for me to pull it across the floor because it was just wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Then my dumbass tried to... I was like, hey, all 140 pounds of me is definitely strong enough to lift the stove and move it. So I try to pick up the edge of it and lift it up and move it. And in doing so, I just sliced my fingers open.
Use every muscle but your brain.
Yes, I did. And I did not get the spatula. David had to get it.
Oh, no.
So
and you hurt yourself in the process.
Yeah, I was afraid of getting tetanus. I put alcohol on it.
That would be such a tragic and kind of pathetic way to die.
Wouldn't it? That was literally my first thought. I was like, if this is the way I go out, I'll be pissed.
Yeah, actually, Madison got tetanus and she died. And it's like, oh, what was she doing? Was she in a junkyard or
a junkyard?
Yeah, that's how you get tetanus, right?
That
No, she was
sad.
actually trying to retrieve something from underneath her appliance. May she rest in peace.
I know someone who died from tetanus.
You do?
Yeah.
You did?
One of my old neighbors, she was tending her garden, and apparently roses carry tetanus.
Fuck.
And she scraped her finger on it. She got pricked by the rose, and she died.
What am I going to do with all my beautiful rose bushes?
Not tend them.
I need to tend them. The contest is coming up.
The contest?
Yes.
What contest?
The rose competition.
The Rose Bowl.
For the village's most beautiful roses.
The village's most beautiful. The Harrisburg Village. Most beautiful roses.
I spent a full year tending these roses in preparation. Oh, goodness gracious. So, exciting stuff today. Madison let me know last week about an open casting call for the short film. It was going Monday and Tuesday, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go Monday and check this out and see how I do, because I've never auditioned for anything before.
Dylan, I would love your frank take on how it went, genuinely.
So, frank take on this.
I would love your thoughts.
I would love to talk about it. I get there, great rapport with Helen. She's super nice. I'm like, hey, what role do you think I would be best for? Because I didn't really have one in mind. And she's like, yeah, maybe the police officer. And I was like, okay. And she was like, what do you think about bulking up?
Did she seriously ask that?
And I was like, what do you mean?
Wait, did she actually ask that?
Yeah. And I was like, I mean, I've been going to the gym. And hopefully by the time that, if I am chosen for the role of police officer.
Do you want to be chosen?
I would.
Okay.
Hopefully by the time that the filming comes around, I'll put on a little mass.
Bulk.
Yeah.
She actually asked.
Honestly, it's fair because typically police officers hold most of their bulk at the top or the bottom.
Okay.
And she said I could get upper bulk or I can gain 40 pounds.
She specified. Here are your 2 options. In the probably 2 weeks that this short film would be, put on.
Holy shit, it's going to be 2 weeks from now?
I don't know, but it's only 2 days of filming.
Oh, God.
So that's what I'm saying.
I gotta really get started. That's what I'm saying. I gotta go to the gym right now.
She said that she wanted it to be filmed in the fall, which it is. Tis currently.
Tis currently for not very much a time.
Exactly.
Oh.
So you can either gain 40 pounds in a week. Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yes.
Tis the season.
Tis the season indeed.
Or you can put on some muscle.
Yeah, I'm going to work on it. But we took to the stage. Madison, you were there as well.
I was.
You were playing the role of friend parentheses girl.
Yes.
And you did perfectly.
Thank you.
You knocked it out of the park.
Thanks.
That was your first time reading the script,
yeah.
Right? That was the first time reading the script for me.
You did very well.
I feel like I did a solid B.
I would give you an A.
I would give myself a B.
I would give you an A. No, Dylan did very, very well. And I have to say, this was Dylan's first time auditioning for anything, might I add?
Not the first time auditioning for something.
Well, fuck me. That It's not true. I just lied again.
Second time auditioning for something.
What did you audition for the first time?
Way back when I was taking an art class at a place called the Banana Factory in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay. The Banana Factory.
The Banana Factory.
An art class.
Yes, the Banana Factory is an art sort of facility. It's an art warehouse where many art classes...
Like an Andy Warhol type of facility. It sounds like an Andy Warhol painting.
Kind of, yeah. They had some of those as well.
Okay.
I think it was probably called the Banana Factory due to Andy Warhol's beautiful banana paintings.
That's what I was thinking.
And in another room next to the art class that I was participating in, they were holding auditions for Tony and Tina's wedding.
Oh!
And I was like, why not?
Why not?
So I walked in there and had a wonderful, fantastic time. So much fun. I was laughing along with the people. Didn't
you have to sing? Isn't that a musical?
I don't know if I had to sing. They wanted me to do the part of the best man.
Okay.
And they had me tell a joke.
Okay.
And I remember the exact joke that I told.
Tell it.
So there are 3 children sitting at a breakfast table. And the mother goes to the oldest child and she says, "What do you want for breakfast?" And he says, "I want some fucking French toast." And she's appalled by his language. So she immediately sends him to his room. She goes to the second child, middle eldest, and she says, "What do you want for breakfast?" And he says, "Well, I want some fucking French toast." And she's appalled once again by his language, sends him to his room, goes to the youngest child. By now, she's a little worn out from this interaction. And she says, "What do you want for breakfast?" And the youngest child says, "Well, I certainly don't want any fucking French toast." And that was a joke. Yeah, and audition went wonderfully.
Yeah?
And so this is my second audition.
Did you get the part?
I didn't.
Oh.
Did not get the part. And this most current audition was a lot of fun. My first line was license and registration. Yeah. And on the car ride home from that audition...
Did you get pulled over?
No. Oh, I kept saying license and registration. I kept practicing it. License and registration. Aww. I was like trying different ways to say it. License and registration. License and registration. So I was having fun with it. And it was a wonderful time.
I love that. Dylan, you'd be a great voice actor.
Thank you.
Like, truly, you should look into it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying so. But yeah, I had a fantastic time. I hope you did as well. How was your experience?
It was good. I'm just used to having time slots and being a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, well,
but it was good.
You did perfectly.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You really occupied the role.
Thank you.
Immediately. You fell into it.
Thank you.
Wonderfully done.
Oh, thank you.
I'm hoping that this bit part as police officer launches me into superstardom.
It will.
And I'm going to move to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I'm going to meet Brad Pitt. And
I'm sorry?
I'm going to meet Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt?
And I'm going to be best friends with all of the stars.
Okay.
And go to all the parties.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, but I had a wonderful time. And before that, we did an improv class.
We did.
Improv.
Game. An improv game.
Which I did not understand at first.
I know you didn't. And I was... I know.
So the improv game is...
The t-shirt game.
T-shirt game.
Yes.
And will you explain the rules?
I will.
For the audience.
I will. So one person comes up with an image. One person comes up with a caption. So think of those t-shirts that you see that have those funny images and just a quick witty caption on it. Except the person who comes up with the caption does not know what the image is. So that's the thing. It's not supposed to be thinking on the spot. It's supposed to be you're supposed to think of something and then how do they click, you know?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. And whenever I heard an image, I was like, I would give an improvised response caption to that image.
Yes, he was thinking real hard. He would look up at the ceiling and go, oh.
Spend 10 minutes just looking at the ceiling the answer was somehow there. So
the way it should be is somebody says I have an image, somebody else says I have a caption, image goes first, and then you caption it.
Yes. Was yours the teddy bears in a ring wrestling?
Yes.
And can you recount that again?
Yes. So my image was a teddy bear in a wrestling ring smashing his opponent with a chair.
And I said, and the crowd went mild. Which I thought wasn't bad.
And the crowd was mild.
The crowd was mild, in fact.
Was indeed mild.
But I wasn't playing the game right. So nobody had fun.
No.
Least of all me. But it was a lot of fun. And you're excellent at improv.
Thank you.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
All in all, it was a great afternoon.
I'm glad. I'm so glad.
And I'm very excited to get into the story. But before that, something we forgot last episode.
Yeah, something we forgot last episode. So we actually got a little email from a listener, and I would love to read it to you.
So excited.
Her name is Susan, and it says, "Hi, Madison and Dylan. I just discovered your podcast last night and was interested to see you cover the JonBenet Ramsey case, a case which has puzzled me since it occurred. My kids were around her age, and it was chilling to think that someone could come into your home, kill your child while you were asleep, and leave an insane ransom note leading people to blame you." So now Susan continues to go on. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Sure.
Okay. Susan will continue to go on to explain some of her theories, and it got me thinking a lot about the case again. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But first, here's what Susan said. If JonBenet was accidentally hit first on the head, then she would still have been alive with no marks or blood on her body. The skull fracture was only discovered at autopsy. For a parent looking at her, she could have just had a concussion or would have recovered. It is inconceivable to me that parents would assume that she was dead and proceed to actually strangle her with a cord and concoct a crazy kidnapping cover story. So she's alluding to like everyone blaming the Ramseys.
Yeah.
I agonized for years because no theory about her death made sense to me. Then I thought of an intruder theory that can explain all the details of the case.
Okay.
John Douglas, the mind hunter, wrote that the only thing worse than your child being murdered would be for this to happen and be blamed for it. He never developed this idea for the JonBenet Ramsey case. However, if framing the parents for JonBenet Ramsey's murder to hurt John Ramsey was the motive, everything the intruder did made sense. He needed to leave circumstantial evidence to implicate the parents, and he did so by using material from the home,
smart,
copying Patsy's handwriting, and putting personal and crazy information in the ransom note, leaving the practice note in the same notepad as a clue that the police would say it was from home, and leaving other clues for the police to find, e.g. the tip of the paintbrush and the flashlight on the kitchen counter. He had probably prepared the note weeks to months in advance, which would give him time to watch kidnapping movies to add multiple references to the note. I doubt that a parent in the middle of the night could recall so many from memory. If this was the plot that actually carried out, then it was the most successful revenge murder of all time because John and his family are still considered guilty for the majority of by the majority of true crime podcasters, and probably most people who know about the case. This theory points to someone very different than the usual intruders mentioned, typically very confused and unorganized pedophiles. The actual killer could be a diabolical genius who, if still alive, could be very dangerous. He may have been a disgruntled employee or someone whose business failed because of Access Graphics, the company that John worked for. If there's any fact about the case that you think would exclude this possibility, I would love to know what it is. Then, I love this part because there's a little bit more.
Okay.
Remember the Gone Girl case that we covered?
I do.
She ties that in. There are eerie parallels to the intruder in the Victim F/American Nightmare Netflix documentary case. Matthew Mueller, the killer in that instance, conducted surveillance on the couple he attacked and eventually broke into their home without their knowledge before the crime. He said it was a kidnapping for ransom, but it was a sexual assault, and he left a crime scene so bizarre that the police immediately thought it was a hoax created by the couple based on the movie Gone Girl. The police never looked for an intruder, and Aaron and Denise would still be under an umbrella of suspicion had it not been for another police department arresting Mueller. So this Victim F case demonstrates that intruders can do a lot of odd things. My theory may not be true, but it is satisfying to me that there is at least one theory that can make sense of what happened that night. I would love to hear your thoughts. With warm regards, Susan.
Thank you so much, Susan. We appreciate your listenership.
Thank you. We really do.
And in that context, it makes sense that a career rival might have tried to compromise his coworker.
Yeah. And so actually, I kind of went into a rabbit hole because of this. It just so happens that another podcast I listen to, Crime Junkie, you've heard of it, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very big. I very much recommend listening to that as well. They do a lot of really great beneficial work for victims. But anyway, they finally covered the JonBenet Ramsey case. She interviewed John Ramsey, the father himself. And it's this 3-hour podcast episode about the case. And it covers everything in such immense detail. It's wild. So there were things in there that I didn't even know. And it was really great to rehear kind of with this fresh perspective. I'm not going to go back into John Benet Ramsey case, but I did want to touch on a couple things. One, the police have officially ruled out the Ramsey family as a possible suspect.
Yes.
100%. They have ruled them out. Between the evidence found on John Benet Ramsey and the touch DNA that they developed in, I believe, 2013, they did not match any of the Ramseys conclusively. There is that put that to rest at least. Now, the second thing in terms of a pedophile or any of those known people that we had talked about in the past.
Yes.
They actually have DNA evidence, and it's in CODIS. Did you know that?
No.
I did not know that. Do you
I
know
don't
what
even
CODIS
know what
is?
CODIS means.
Okay, so that's the other thing. So,
let alone what's in it.
What I was thinking for years is,
Okay.
for years, I was thinking that they're just, because the case was so mishandled, there couldn't possibly be enough DNA evidence to go into CODIS or for genetic genealogy, but there is. So CODIS is the DNA database, essentially, that the government has for all, I believe it's all violators of the law, but specifically it's not just people who have sexually abused somebody. It's like all, what's the word? Federal crimes.
Offenders?
Offenders? No. Felons. All felons. That's the word. I'm so sorry. All felons have their DNA inserted into CODIS so that if there are any missing connections for like crime cases or anything, their DNA might be able to solve it.
Yeah.
Okay. So her DNA is entered into CODIS. Any criminals that are in the system that have their DNAs to compare, none of them match.
Okay.
Which is wild. They also compared this DNA that's in CODIS to 200 of the most popular suspects that the police have, including the pedophile from jail, including that wacky guy who claimed that he did it from another country or whatever the fuck.
Yes.
They compared it against all of these people. The Santa theory, an actual convicted pedophile from within the pageant circuit that John Benet Ramsey was in. All of these people, and none of them matched. So then they started talking about this exact theory that it had to have, that the most conclusive thing that they can think of is that it was a business rival or some type of thing.
Who wasn't a felon.
Because also, remember how corrupt the police department was?
Detective French.
I
remember Detective French.
That's wild, actually. That's wild. But the police department itself was corrupt. So many police officers resigned because of the corruption. And then not just that, but the actual judicial system within Boulder, Colorado was so fucked. So that's the other thing, too. Could they be protecting somebody? I mean, John Benet Ramsey's company, Access Graphics, was acquired by Lockheed Martin, which is a giant government contractor.
Yes, Lockheed Martin is scary.
Yes. So that's just some things to think about. And I will say, after listening to all of the Crime Junkie episode, I will say there are a couple things that we know. One, again, it's not the Ramseys who did it. Their DNA was excluded.
Yes.
But we do know that the Ramseys know more than they say. Because there's a lot of strange incidences that have happened, and he said, she said things, and people are like, oh, well, I don't know. And I wasn't privy to that conversation, when it was really strange.
If it was a career rival, then the father would have considered that.
Yes.
And likely had somebody or some people in mind.
Yes. But that was the odd thing, because some of the people that might have, there was a very close friend of them, I think the Whites, I forget his first name, but at one point it was talking about an incident where they were fighting and they ended up falling out over something. But basically the Mr. White came in and was like, John, you know what this is about, you know why they did this, or going on these crazy rants and tangents that ended up making them fall out. But it was basically Mr. White saying, I have to protect myself and my family because of what happened. We don't know what he was referring to, if he was talking about the press. Could he be talking more in depth about who murdered John Benet? We don't know.
Yeah.
So all that to say, it's so much more convoluted than we would ever imagine. And we're never going to find out. I don't ever believe.
I seriously doubt we will.
No.
But thank you very much, Susan, for bringing that to the table.
Yes. Thank you, Susan. You made me do a lot of thinking and digging, obviously. This is, I guess, a John Benet part 2.
And please send in more emails.
Yes. Thank you. That was lovely. That made my day. And I loved being able to hear a different perspective. Because I love whenever we get to like talk and dissect things. And it's so nice to actually get to do that from an outside perspective who's like listening to what we have to offer.
Absolutely. So, and we're going to be doing a lot of talking and dissecting today.
We will be. So yeah, Susan, thank you very much.
Thank you. And welcome to My Existential Crisis,
the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self.
My name is Dylan.
And my name is Madison.
A few weeks back, I went to Midtown Cinema for a screening of the indie documentary, The Midnight Ride.
For those of you who don't know, Midtown Cinema is a local indie art house in Harrisburg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That context is necessary. Of the indie documentary, The Midnight Ride of Jonathan Luna. And it was a very special screening.
Okay.
The filmmaker himself was there.
Oh, wow.
A man named Dan Cohen, as was the writer of the book of the same name, William Keisling.
Okay.
And they gave, which I believe it's pronounced, and they gave a Q&A after the movie.
Oh, wow.
Gonna be honest here, the movie was a little rough around the edges. And I'll be talking about some interesting creative decisions they made as I tell the story itself.
Star swipe.
But I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. To give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about, the tagline on the movie poster reads, "A federal prosecutor was stabbed 30 times. The FBI called it suicide."
Oh.
And by the end of the story, I think you'll be convinced, as I am, that it wasn't suicide.
No. What?
Yeah, that in fact, someone assassinated this federal prosecutor and in quite a grisly way. But why? Why?
Why?
Why?
Why, Dylan?
Why would someone murder a federal prosecutor in cold blood? And who is guilty of this crime? Who did it? Susan, write in. Please tell us.
Let us know.
Well, we have to set the stage first with an introduction to Jonathan Luna. He was born on October 21st in 1965. Good year for grapes. In the Bronx, New York City. He was of African-American and Filipino descent, and as the movie details, he had a challenging upbringing. The economically struggling area didn't provide many opportunities, but despite this, he was a really determined kid. He pursued his education rigorously, and we have a hand.
Sorry, what year did you say this was?
1965.
1965. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah. If you need to remember, just think, what's the best year for grapes? And you'll remember.
Why?
What?
Why?
It's like a mnemonic device.
The best year for grapes?
1965.
But
that makes sense, right?
Why is it the best year for grapes?
Unimportant.
Okay. All right.
Totally.
Best year for grapes.
Totally unimportant.
All right.
He pursued his education rigorously. I love saying that word.
Rigorously.
Standing above your mouth is a little dance. Rigorously.
A rigmarole.
Standing above his classmates for his academic achievements, and his record in high school was, on the whole, consistently impressive. Are you taking notes?
I was writing down a title option. I have to do that or I'll forget.
I see.
The best year for grapes. Sorry, I'm not taking notes.
Really have to stress, it's not important. Now, his circumstances made him a really resilient, ambitious guy, and from all the interviews provided in the movie, it was clear that he was well-liked and respected. Springboarding off of his success in high school, he attended Fordham University in New York for his bachelor's degree, then earned a law degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Good for him.
Yeah, and it had a very prestigious, I believe still has a very prestigious law program.
I believe so, yeah.
He started a private practice in Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Before his interest shifted toward public service. He became a public defender, then pursued an opportunity to work at a federal level when he joined the Federal Public Defender's Office. He became an assistant U.S. attorney in Brooklyn before transferring to Maryland in 1999. To provide some context, it's extremely difficult to become an assistant U.S. attorney. I would know. There's a long and arduous selection process overseen by the U.S. Department of Justice. which really shows how capable Luna was to be hired to this position in his early 30s. And he even found time to get married and have 2 kids.
Look at that. I was going to say, especially in a time when, like, you still have, like a bunch of racial issues and, like, prejudice. Again, I mean, you still have that today. But, like, it was so much more prevalent then. Yeah. And, like, that's really amazing.
Absolutely. Now, his appointment to the assistant U.S. attorney's position is where this story really begins. Luna's in his assistant U.S. attorney era, handling criminal cases and drug trafficking.
Hashtag assistant
U.S. attorney era. Let's get it trending. We're going viral. He's handling criminal cases and drug trafficking, gang-related cases, and financial crimes like fraud and robberies. That last part is going to be important later, and by later, I mean now. How's that for a transition? There are 2 main cases that are important to this story. The first involves a series of staged robberies and fraudulent activities committed by 2 men, Darnell Large and Dion Smith. Dan Cohen, the filmmaker of the documentary, actually interviews one of the bank robbers, and the guy is very flippant about his crimes.
Oh.
He talks about dressing up in a disguise, going into a bank, and demanding to be let into the safe. He said he'd turn around and leave if they said no because his gun was fake. And the movie provides these really beautiful, what I think are pastel drawings. And in one of them, the bank robber is dressed up in what I remember to be a purple suit, fancy hat, and big glasses.
Was he a pimp?
Maybe, but it's absolutely hilarious. If you want to be discreet during a bank robbery, go with earth tones. Some advice for the audience. So Luna was the lead prosecutor on this case in which $36,000 was stolen. However, a pretty big issue arose when a portion of the stolen money went missing.
Oh.
Though there's no evidence tying Luna to the stolen money, there was a lot of pressure placed on him after this, and he was heavily scrutinized. Very few people had access to the stolen money that was being used as evidence in the case. Those who did have access included Luna and the FBI, who were involved in the case because it fell under federal jurisdiction. There was reportedly friction between Luna and the FBI during this case for a few reasons. For one, Luna was pursuing a plea agreement with terms the FBI disagreed with. The FBI wanted a trial, not a plea. Keep that in mind because Luna's relationship with the FBI only gets more strained.
I was going to say, like, what? Not like what does it matter, but like why a trial? Why go through a trial if he's just going to plea?
Sure. So the reason why, like, certain investigators prefer trial is because
you can punish more.
Yeah, they either feel like the defendant deserves harsher punishment.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Or they feel like the plea undermines their intended approach.
Was the plea undermining the intended approach?
That detail, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Now, as a quick side note, the documentary gives recreations of these court scenes.
Okay.
And the actor they chose to play Luna looks exactly like him.
Wow.
It's truly uncanny.
Wow.
I was like, wow, great casting.
They rose him from the dead.
Yeah. And then the actor who played Luna opened his mouth.
Oh, no.
And he sounds like a child.
Oh, no.
His voice is so high-pitched, my phone screen shattered.
Oh, no.
The man was huffing helium between takes, and it took me right out of the movie.
Was it as high as my voice?
Higher. He sounded higher even than that. Okay, that's about there, yeah. You sound like a prepubescent, like Mickey Mouse, kind of. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, no.
And it was like such a serious movie and such a serious scene. And I couldn't help but just fucking laugh.
Oh, no.
Which made me feel bad because the filmmaker was like in the theater.
Maybe that's how the man actually spoke.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. You're right.
Do we know?
Good point. We don't. We don't.
We don't.
You and I don't.
We don't.
Other people do.
It was an artistic choice.
Yes.
Or a biological one.
Hey, what are biological choices if not God's artistic choices?
That's true. It's true. What something to think about.
How about that? Chew on that. And speak on that. The second case we're going to talk about is very important to this story. It took place in the months leading up to Luna's death, and things start to come together. Luna was prosecuting a case that involved Michael Maurice Pugh, commonly referred to as Pug, which I absolutely love.
Pug.
Luna was trying to save Pug from being euthanized, so to speak. Pug was selling drugs, and he was charged with federal drug offenses like trafficking, as well as potential conspiracy charges in a broader effort to dismantle drug networks in Baltimore. As an assistant U.S. attorney, Luna was responsible for building the case, negotiating plea deals, and court proceedings like paperwork and government representation. Once again, the FBI was involved. Due to the serious nature of the drug charges, the dismantling of larger organizations, and involvement of federal task forces like the DEA?
Yeah. Drug Enforcement Agency?
Yeah. The FBI had their hands in this one as well. Like the last case we talked about, there was tension here between Luna and the FBI. Luna was working on a plea deal for Pug, and I can't help but imagine tiny Pug, dressed in a suit, raising his little paws in a courtroom, begging for a deal.
A pug's hope.
A pug's hope, if you will. And I will. Anyway, Luna was working on a plea deal for Pug, which might have gotten him a lighter sentence if he cooperated. However, like I mentioned, federal investigators sometimes view plea deals as undermining their efforts, especially if they feel the defendant deserves harsher punishment. There was additional friction because Luna was critical of the FBI's methods during this case. Now, I couldn't find too much information on this online, partially going off of memory here, but I'm going to do my best in recounting this next part from the documentary, which really researched all of this in very intense detail. From what I can remember, Luna was critical of the FBI's methods in securing evidence and the way they were working with their informants in Baltimore. And the FBI has always been very secretive about their inner workings. They didn't want to be publicly questioned or compromised in this case. And that led to additional tension. If you want the full details, I highly recommend watching The Midnight Ride of Jonathan Luna. It goes into both cases very thoroughly, and you can see all the beautiful pastel drawings and hear the actor who plays Luna's voice. Worth a watch. Now, this is where we arrive at the Midnight Ride. Things are reaching a boiling point between Luna and the FBI, and here is a truly strange and gruesome part of this unsolved mystery.
Okay.
It was a night of December 3rd, 2003. Jonathan Luna was working late on various cases, including the two I discussed, the bank robbery case and the drug trafficking case involving Pug. He told his colleagues he'd be back, and the evidence supports this. He left his glasses, personal cell phone, laptop, and documents at his desk, suggesting that he planned to return. It is also reported that Luna needed his glasses to drive, which is an interesting detail I'll explore a little later.
Yeah.
Now, though, let's get into the Midnight Ride. At 11:38 p.m., Luna left the Baltimore courthouse and headed northeast on I-95. He used his Easy Pass on I-95 through Delaware, but then switched to paying toll tickets after he entered New Jersey and Pennsylvania, which is strange because he had an Easy Pass. He didn't need toll tickets.
Yeah.
At 12:57 a.m., Luna withdrew $200 from an ATM at the JFK Plaza Service Center near Newark, Delaware. At 2:47 a.m., he crossed the Delaware River toll bridge into Pennsylvania. At 3:20 a.m., Luna's debit card was used to buy gas at the Sunoco, King of Prussia Service Plaza. At 4:04 a.m., Luna's car exited the Pennsylvania Turnpike at the Reading-Lancaster interchange.
I didn't realize how close this was.
Yeah, it's very close by.
That's wild.
Yeah, Lancaster is only like 45 minutes from here.
Also, I feel kind of dumb now.
Why?
Because I thought this took place in the 70s.
No, this is in early 2000s.
That's why I was talking about the segregation and the racism.
Well, at the time that he was appointed to assistant U.S. attorney in late 90s, that was still a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was still correct. Although I was still thinking 70s. So then you started talking about cell phones and Easy Pass. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, it wasn't like as intense of like
advanced.
segregation or anything, but I mean, I'm sure those biases
Oh
still
my
existed.
gosh, of course.
Now, at 4:04 a.m., Luna's car exited the Pennsylvania Turnpike at the Reading-Lancaster interchange. The toll ticket, found later, had a spot of blood on it, which suggested that Luna was already injured at this point. His car was parked at the back of Sensenig and Weaver Well Drilling Company on Dry Tavern Road, Denver, Pennsylvania, before it was driven into a nearby stream. At 5 a.m., the first employee of Sensenig and Weaver arrived at the location, and by 5:30 a.m., Luna's car was noticed. It was partially in the stream. Blood was smeared across the driver's side door as well as the front left of the car.
Fuck.
Blood was also found in the rear seat floor.
Okay.
In front of the car, lying face down in the stream, was Luna. He was wearing a suit and black overcoat with his court ID still hanging around his neck. He'd been stabbed 36 times around his chest and neck with his own pocket knife.
Oh my gosh.
His throat was slit. He'd also suffered a head injury. He didn't die from these wounds, however.
Oh, fuck.
He died from drowning.
And his blood?
In the stream.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah. Oh. That still sucks. It's not a sigh of relief.
The FBI would later suggest it was a suicide. Even going so far as to request in 2006 that coroner Gary Kirchner change his ruling from homicide. Kirchner refused.
What the fuck?
Now, let's imagine for a moment that it was a suicide and play this out. Luna opened his pocket knife and stabbed himself 36 times. So let's just go through that. Stab, 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 stab. Stab, 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 stab. Stab, 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 stab. And somewhere along the way, he slit his own throat.
That's not, no. With
his pocket knife.
No.
The FBI claims that this is what happened. You can see why people are suspicious.
You think?
Yeah. Now, there are a few theories surrounding Luna's death.
Okay.
Let's start with the FBI theory. That they wanted to deal with Luna, a high-profile federal prosecutor, ending his interference with their investigations. Based on the evidence, this is how things might have gone down. This is sort of how I've pieced things together. Mm-hmm. And again, this is one theory of several. The FBI sent 2 enforcers to essentially intimidate Luna. Mm-hmm. These enforcers called and asked that Luna join them in the parking garage, leveraging their authority so he was more agreeable to the request. Luna didn't think he'd be driving. He thought he'd be stepping out temporarily to speak with the FBI, so he left his glasses and cell phone.
That makes sense.
When he arrived, enforcer number 1 entered the driver's seat of Luna's car, while enforcer number 2 entered the back seat with Luna. That's when the interrogation began. The drive itself lasted quite a few hours, which lines up with this theory. You know, if they wanted to kill him right away, then it wouldn't be hours. If Luna was in the car with FBI enforcers, they might have tried threatening him, pushing him, negotiating with him. But if we know anything about Luna from his background, is that he had integrity. Enforcer number 2 resorted to violence, which explains the blood on the toll ticket. As for the toll ticket, switching to tickets would obscure the route, since you wouldn't have a detailed digital footprint with all the information an easy pass would log. So when violence didn't work during this quote-unquote negotiation, Luna was brought to a discreet, out-of-the-way location, the back lot of the Sensenig and Weezer well drilling company. In Google Street View, you can see that this area is pretty remote. Mm-hmm. Once the car was parked, things escalated, and enforcer number 2 stabbed Luna over 30 times, slitting his throat.
Jeez.
Thinking he was dead, the enforcers left. Luna, who was still alive, got into the front seat of the car, smearing blood on the door. He attempted to drive to safety, but instead drove the car into a nearby stream. He stepped out of the car, smearing blood on the front left of the car before collapsing. Now, there are a few questions here.
Yeah.
You might be asking, why would an FBI enforcer kill Luna with his own pocket knife? That seems strange. Mm. Well, when they joined him in his car, they might have asked him if he was carrying any weapons. Luna disclosed that he had a pocket knife. This is one idea. Enforcer number 2 took the knife, not intending to use it. I don't think they wanted to kill him, but it was clear that their methods weren't working, and so they started threatening violence. Things got out of hand, and they impromptu suicided him.
Damn.
It was pretty sloppy, which makes me think it wasn't their initial intention, at least if we're following along with this theory. It is just a theory. One last piece of evidence that supports the presence of other people in the car. During the investigation, they found a second blood type and a partial print.
Fuck!
Yeah.
Sorry, that was loud. It's just like, they have all this evidence, and how can you still call it a suicide?
Yeah. But the really convincing thing about this theory was the FBI's response, claiming it was a suicide when it so obviously wasn't, and reaching out to the coroner to request that he change his ruling.
That's fucked.
Of course, there are other theories, and I don't want to discount those either. Luna was deeply embroiled in a high-profile drug trafficking case, and naturally, you make a lot of dangerous enemies that way.
Yeah.
A gang member might have killed him, which would explain the brutality of the murder.
Yeah.
It would also somewhat explain the $200 ATM withdrawal, but I'm not so sure about that. The withdrawal could have been made to obscure things even further, pulling attention away from the actual culprit. And lastly, we have the suicide theory. Luna was set to take a polygraph test for the stolen money for the bank robbery case. He had $25,000 in credit card debt, and his name was found on an internet dating site, which suggested infidelity, but we don't know the details of his marriage arrangement. So, also, a private investigator named Ed Martino was hired by a close friend of Luna's as well as a client he didn't have permission to name. Martino spent 6 months checking out Luna's background, and he wasn't able to link Luna to any quote-unquote bad behavior. Madison, with all these details, what do you think happened?
Okay, so first off, the suicide theory.
Yeah.
Why would you stab yourself 33 times and then slit your throat? And then, like, why? Why would you do that?
If you wanted to commit suicide with a pocket knife, Luna was probably smart enough to know, like most people know, that you slit your wrist vertically.
Vertically. Yes.
So if suicide wasn't his intention, that's probably how he would go about it.
Yes. So, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. I understand the credit card debt and infidelity, but he had a lot going for them. People have credit card debt and are infidelity, unfaithful every day.
I like infidelity.
Infidelity.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Sounds like somebody from
Fiddler
Fiddler on the
Goes
Roof.
West. Wait, what?
Sounds like a character from Fiddler on the Roof.
Infidel.
Yeah.
I said Feifel Goes West.
Oh, Feifel Goes
American
West.
Tale.
Infidel Goes East.
Infidel Goes East.
So, yeah, please continue.
No, that happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not that doesn't suck. That's not a hardship, but people have gone through much worse, and that's nothing comparatively, you know?
Sure.
I don't know if that's end life worthy.
No, especially with the education that he had.
No.
The family that he had.
No.
2 kids.
The success that he had.
Yeah.
And just in general. Now, we don't know somebody's mental health history.
Sure.
We don't know what they're going through, but it just doesn't seem likely to me. And again, doesn't seem like, why would you do it that way? And if you were driving, why wouldn't you take your glasses when you needed your glasses to drive?
Yes. Now, let's play the devil's advocate here. He was under a lot of pressure at work with the 2 cases, one of which involved the disappearance of very important evidence. Mm-hmm. And he was being heavily scrutinized.
Yeah.
He might have been at risk of losing his job.
That's true.
And somebody under that amount of pressure might have had a psychotic break.
Again, and that's totally fair. But then why would you stab yourself 33 times? It's also like you have to be in such a dark mental state to do that, because self-preservation kicks in at some point. Like stabbing yourself you're stabbing yourself 33 times. Not only are you going to run out of strength to do that with the blood loss, but you're puncturing muscles. That's painful. How do you continue to repeatedly stab yourself hard enough to stab yourself
3 dozen times?
That's crazy. And then slit your throat. Yeah. Again, if you're going to kill yourself, just slit your throat.
Yeah.
I
was thinking the same thing.
That's not the message I want to portray.
Hey, folks,
if you
want to kill yourself, just slit your throat.
Just slit your throat. No, do not do that, anybody. Don't do that. But, there's stabbing yourself 33 times is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Get drunk on pills and drive into the river if you're going to drive into the river.
You drove into a stream.
You could drive. Why are you driving the whole way to Pennsylvania when you work in New York?
Well, he lived in Pennsylvania. He had an 1.5-hour commute. So the route that he took initially suggested that he was driving home. However, the
he moved.
change of the route suggests some kind of either confusion or somebody in the car directing him or somebody driving the vehicle.
So that's
who wasn't him.
Again, if you want to drive a long time in the night, maybe to clear your head or something, I can get that. But the manner of death doesn't make sense.
Right.
For that circumstance.
And the fact that there was blood in the back seat is also a little confusing.
Exactly. There are signs of a struggle there. Mm-hmm. With it being in the black. Now, if you're stabbed 33 times, I imagine you're going to get blood multiple places. But if you're in the front seat driving, it should be mostly contained there.
And how could he drive?
Yeah.
He didn't have his glasses.
That's true.
Unless he had a second pair of glasses in the car.
Which they didn't report.
Not to my knowledge.
I am all for a good FBI conspiracy as well.
Yeah.
That feels real sussy-wussy to me. But I'm also liking the drug theory with like the outside people.
Yes. He was working on a very high-profile case with an entire network of people involved in the Baltimore drug trade.
Dangerous, especially in like the DEA. That's fucking crazy. So if you're working alongside them and you're a prosecutor, like people disappear, things happen. Now,
the one thing that makes me think that it probably wasn't somebody from the drug trade, like a gang member.
Yes. I'm wondering if you're going to say the same thing I will. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Is that he seemed to have been drawn to the parking garage via a phone call.
Okay.
And how would a gang member have his phone number?
Okay.
And more than that, why would he agree to go to the parking garage with either a stranger or a dangerous criminal that he knew?
Maybe he went rogue. Maybe he thought that they had information. Maybe somebody called him up and was like, hey, I have information on your case that you're going to want to hear. Meet me at this place, XY. And he's like, you know what? Let's just try it.
Yeah.
Crazier things have happened. But what I was going to say was, although he was a prosecutor on the case, like he was still vying for a plea deal, which is a looser sentence than going to trial. Now, if you go to trial, there is the option of, like, you could win. Mm-hmm. But a safe bet is to take a plea deal, in my brain at least. So, like, that's the other thing, too. Maybe if they plea, maybe the condition was they have to give us certain information if they were to plea. Mm-hmm. Like, cut them a deal. So, okay, that I just debunked my theory there. That's okay. That's what we're here to do. Yeah, I don't know. But okay, but not just that, but it's not like killing a prosecutor, like the case is going anywhere. Like it's still, you just put another prosecutor on that puppy and it's still going to trial.
Throw another prosecutor on that puppy / pug. Now here's one possibility, right? So let's say that Luna intended to drive. He left maybe it was a short drive. He left his glasses and cell phone at the desk because it was going to be a short drive. Maybe he had a second pair of glasses in the car. It would make sense if he needed them to drive.
Yeah. I don't keep a second pair of glasses in the car, and I need them to drive.
Yeah. But just for the sake of this particular theory.
Okay.
So he starts driving. He goes to another location. He's ambushed by two people who are following him, maybe gang members.
Yeah.
Who then enter the car.
Yeah.
One of whom is driving behind them. And force him to withdraw $200. But at the same time, they would have their own weapons. Why would they use his own pocket knife?
That's true. That's very true.
It seems like a strange choice.
It does.
Why would they use a gun?
Yeah.
Unless they wanted to intimidate other people into leaving the case.
So my one thought for that was like, could maybe like they would like trying to get information out of them? Is that like their torture tactic? Like, do they stab them like every time, like slowly? Maybe it wasn't like boom, 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 boom. Maybe it was slower than that.
Potentially.
And then like in a fit of rage. I don't know.
And what supports that is blood on the toll ticket.
Yeah.
So we initially assumed that most of the stabbing took place in the lot behind that business that I mentioned. But he was injured. But he was already injured before he got there.
Yeah. It could have also just been like him being subdued, like a bloody nose. Nose is bleeding very badly. Very
true. He had a head injury.
Yeah. Fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Now,
were there any leads in I know the FBI was calling it a suicide, but the person who did the autopsy said homicide.
Yes.
Were there any leads from the police, or were the FBI just like washing their hands of it?
No leads.
Wow.
And what's more, no footage. The only footage that was provided was very grainy footage from one of the stops that Luna made.
You know, we have all these video cameras and they never fucking work.
Shit.
Right? Like, whenever my car got hit in downtown Harrisburg, I looked at this school and I said, hey, I want your footage. And they said, you can't go through it. And I'm like, okay, well, can somebody on the inside go through it? And guess what they told me?
What?
They saw nothing. And I said, what do you mean nothing? And they said, we saw nothing. I'm like, you mean you saw not like darkness or nobody hit my car? And they're like, we saw nothing. I'm like, fuck you, nuns.
Those fuckers.
Actually, don't fuck you, nuns. That's not nice.
Nuns are typically
They were nuns! You thought they would want to help me.
They didn't.
No! I paid a lot of money to get my mirror fixed.
It was just a mirror?
Yes.
Okay.
It was smashed to smithereens, though. It was hundreds of dollars.
That makes me feel a little less sympathetic.
Why?
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money, but...
It was hundreds of dollars.
I thought somebody, like, slammed into your car.
They did.
I mean, like, the side of it, like, T-boned it. You just lost the mirror, that's it?
I didn't just lose the mirror. I lost the mirror, and I lost hundreds of dollars.
I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry.
That was only one instance, Dylan. My car has been hit so many times.
Why?
Because people love to hit my car.
Is that why?
No matter
Do you
what.
park too much in the street?
No.
I don't mean to victim blame, but how are you parking? What's your parking strategy?
Whenever I used to live in downtown Harrisburg, I had no choice but to park on the street. But 2 of the times I got hit was in our work parking lot, Dylan.
In our work parking lot?
In our work parking lot. I got hit by a dumpster truck. They left a note on my car saying, "Sorry, we hit your car. Here's our number." Shit you not. And then somebody else hit my car. Sorry, we hit your car.
Damn. That sucks.
Parking on the street? No, I'm parking at work. Where I'm supposed to be safe.
I parked on the street and I was hit by a damn FedEx driver.
Okay, well, yeah.
So you think that I don't know shit? You think I don't know the pain?
And you were very lucky because you had a camera that worked that instance.
Yeah, my neighbor did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came in clutch.
Yeah,
I used that
incredible.
video in the claim, and then I had to threaten legal. I had to threaten. What is the term? Threaten legal action. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll cut you a check."
Fuck you! What the hell?
Fuck them.
You literally see it. Hey, I have you on camera doing this thing to my car that costs thousands of dollars. We didn't do it. It wasn't us. I can't see a thing. I see nothing.
I hate
I don't see anything.
Honestly, nuns and FedEx drivers.
Nuns and FedEx drivers.
The worst. Disgusting people. Anyway. So what theory do you think you settle on? What do you think is the most likely? There's the FBI theory. There is the gang member theory. And there is the suicide theory. And there are other theories.
No, those are the 3 most likely.
And there's
in my
the
brain.
psychosis theory, yeah.
I don't believe in the suicide or psychosis theory. I just don't. I refuse to believe it. As much as I mean, this is called my existential crisis, but I do like to hold out a little bit of hope in humanity, although I'm aware that that's a very dangerous game to play. So because of that...
What, just being like a generally optimistic and positive
Yes,
person?
right?
Yeah.
But I would hate to think that the FBI would do it. That said, I know that worse things have happened from the FBI. So, like, while my gut is like, damn, that sucks. Wouldn't that be awful? Another part of me is like, fuck, that's happened before.
I mean, the CIA killed JFK. So, it's true. Look it up.
It's true. Don't look it up, folks. Please don't.
So, yeah, what do you say?
I'm kind of leaning towards FBI. My instinct is leaning towards the drug dealers, but my brain is leaning towards FBI.
Interesting. And there could have been dirty people within the FBI, specifically those involved in the bank robbery case.
I was literally just going to say, or they teamed up. Like, there could have been a dirty FBI agent who was with the drug dealers or with the bank robber.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe
dirty FBI agent is my number 1 choice.
Yeah, maybe a dirty FBI agent who stole the money.
Yeah.
Was feeling the pressure from Luna, who was set to take a polygraph test.
Yeah.
And decided to, see what they could do to
dirty
fix the
FBI agent. Final answer.
Yeah, I feel the same. All right. Now, ultimately, we lost a good man.
We did.
And no one has been held accountable. From the interviews in the documentary, it was clear that Jonathan Luna had close relationships with a fair number of people who loved and admired him. He had a wife and 2 children, and due to the nature of this case, these people may never get closure, because the very organizations that were meant to serve justice failed to pursue justice for one of their own. Of course, the theories that have come out of this case are only conjecture, but ending here on a note of bitter irony, I'll let you be the judge. Sources are WGAL, Wikipedia, Newslank, Lancaster Online, and The Midnight Ride of Jonathan Luna, both the book and the movie.
Thanks, Dylan.
Absolutely.
That was a really great story. It was tragic, but it was a really, really great one.
Thank you very much.
I like that. Susan, are you listening? Susan, let us know what you think. Who do you think killed him?
Susan, your investigative aptitude is incredible.
It really is.
So please,
Very
tell us what you
interested to
think
hear.
happened.
Yeah, and if your name is not Susan, if not this Susan, if anyone out there has a name and they listen to this podcast,
we need to rally our army of Susans.
Yes, and you would also like to weigh in, we'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah. Now, do you have an idea in mind for what you're going to do next episode?
Absolutely not.
Wonderful.
No idea.
Excellent.
No idea. So, yeah, if you have suggestions, let me know. I probably will have picked a topic at this point, but always let us know if you have suggestions. We're happy to hear them.
Mm. And thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to be like Susan, you can send us an email at myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at MECrisisPod. You can send us a DM there if you would like. Follow Dylan at MarbleFolk on Instagram.
I just drew a chupacabra.
He did! And some goats.
And some goats.
And you can follow me at madison.epley.
All right, folks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.